Stop what you're doing and listen carefully. Have you ever been stuck in traffic, completely stressed, when suddenly you catch yourself thinking, "Why am I doing this to myself again?" That moment when you step outside your own mental drama and observe it from a distance? If you've experienced this, comment "I want change" right now, because you're about to discover you're part of a rare 0.3% of humans with access to extraordinary neural power. Most people think that's just awareness. But quantum physicists have discovered something that will blow your mind. That split second when you observe your thoughts is literally collapsing infinite quantum possibilities into new reality, and it's rewiring your brain's frequency in real time. I'm Marcus Steinberg. Welcome to the NeuroQuantum family, where we prove that your consciousness isn't just observing reality, it's actively creating it. Comment "I am ready" if you're ready to join thousands of quantum observers who are taking conscious control of their neural reality. Because there's a quantum phenomenon happening inside your brain every single day that 99.7% of people never learn to use consciously. It's called the observer effect, and when you activate it intentionally, you can rewire decades-old neural patterns in minutes, not months. But here's what the neuroscience establishment doesn't want the neuroquantum community to know. Your consciousness isn't just observing reality, it's actively creating it through quantum field interactions happening in your neural networks. Comment "I'm ready" if you want to be part of the neuroquantum movement that's proving consciousness can be consciously developed. Every time you consciously observe a thought pattern, you're literally shifting the vibrational frequency of your brainwaves from chaos to coherence. And when your brain operates in quantum coherence, something impossible becomes possible. Instant neuroplasticity. If this sounds like science fiction, comment "mind blown." But stick with me because I'm about to prove it with brain scans that will shock you. Not gradual change over weeks, not slow progress over months. Immediate reorganization of neural pathways. I'm going to prove this to you with brain scans, real case studies, and a simple protocol that works in 17 minutes. But first, let me tell you about the night I accidentally discovered this. I was lying in bed at 2:47 a.m. completely overwhelmed. You know that feeling when your mind just won't shut off? My brain was stuck in this frequency. What if I fail? What if they find out I'm a fraud? What if everything falls apart? Then something weird happened. Instead of fighting these thoughts, I started observing them like I was watching a movie. Oh, there's that fear frequency activating again. There's my nervous system shifting into survival mode. There's my quantum field responding to scarcity vibration. Within minutes, my entire reality shifted. Not because the thoughts disappeared, but because I'd accessed what neuroscientists call quantum observer consciousness. The next morning, I had to know, what the hell happened to my brain's frequency? That question led me to a discovery that's been suppressed by mainstream neuroscience for decades. Your brain isn't just a biological computer. It's a quantum field processor that responds instantly to observer consciousness. And once you understand how to activate this quantum observer state, you gain the power to reprogram any neural pattern in real time. Trauma that's been stuck for years, gone in one session. Anxiety patterns that control your daily reality, transformed instantly. Limiting beliefs about money, relationships, success, rewritten through quantum observation. Sound impossible? That's exactly what I thought until I saw the brain scans. They've been lying to you about how your brain actually works. Neural pathways are like concrete, slow to change. It takes 21 days to form new habits. You need months of therapy to process trauma. Complete bullshit. Comment "I am powerful." If you're tired of being told change has to be slow and painful, your brain is operating as a quantum system every millisecond, constantly collapsing infinite possibilities into your current reality based on the frequency of your observer consciousness. But here's the tragedy. 99% of people are completely unconscious of this process. They're operating on autopilot, letting random quantum field interactions create their reality instead of directing them consciously. This is why the neuroquantum community exists. We refuse to accept unconscious living as normal. And if you don't learn to harness your quantum observer power, you'll spend the rest of your life trapped in the same mental prison wondering why nothing ever really changes. Comment, I choose freedom if you're done being controlled by unconscious neural patterns. Let me get personal for a second. 5 years ago, I was completely stuck. Anxiety attacks every morning, perfectionism destroying my relationships, self-doubt sabotaging every opportunity. I tried everything mainstream psychology offered: cognitive therapy, medication, mindfulness apps, breathing exercises. You know what changed? Nothing. Because none of those approaches understood the quantum observer effect. They were trying to modify thoughts instead of transforming the frequency that generates thoughts. It's like trying to change the music by adjusting the speakers instead of changing the radio station. But then I discovered something that shouldn't be possible according to conventional neuroscience. Your consciousness can instantly shift your brain's vibrational frequency from chaos to coherence through pure observation. And when your neural networks operate in quantum coherence, they automatically reorganize into more efficient patterns. Here's a story that proves this is real. Sarah, a marketing manager from Dallas, had been trapped in imposter syndrome for 8 years. Marcus, I know logically that I'm qualified, but every meeting that voice starts, they're going to discover you don't belong here. It's like my brain's frequency is stuck on fear. If this sounds like your internal dialogue, comment, I feel this. You're definitely part of the neuroquantum family. Instead of trying to change her thoughts, I taught her something radical: how to shift into quantum observer consciousness and watch her fear patterns without being controlled by them. 3 days later, she called me. Marcus, something impossible happened. I was in a board meeting. That familiar fear frequency started activating, but this time I stepped into observer mode. Suddenly I could see that fear was just energy patterns moving through my quantum field. The moment I observed it without resistance, my brain's frequency shifted to coherence. For the first time in 8 years, I felt completely calm and confident. Not because I forced positive thoughts, but because I'd accessed my quantum observer power. Comment. I want this power. If you want to learn exactly how Sarah did this, because I'm teaching the protocol later in this video. This is what happens when you understand that you're not your thoughts, emotions, or mental patterns. You are the quantum consciousness that observes and directs them. And from that observer position, you have the power to collapse any reality you choose. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Traditional neuroscience says changing brain patterns requires repetition over time. But quantum neuroscience reveals something completely different. Your brain exists in superposition, multiple possible states simultaneously, until consciousness observes and collapses it into specific reality. This means every moment of conscious observation is literally selecting which neural reality becomes your experience. Most people never realize they have this power. They're unconsciously collapsing random realities based on whatever frequency their brain happens to be operating on. But once you learn to access quantum observer consciousness intentionally, you become the director of your own neural evolution, and the speed of transformation will shock you. Wait until you see what happened to Michael. Here's the study that shattered everything we thought we knew about the brain. Dr. Dean Radin at the Institute of Noetic Sciences conducted an experiment that mainstream science tried to suppress. He put people in fMRI machines and measured their brain activity while they practiced quantum observation techniques. What they discovered defied every law of conventional neuroscience. The moment participants accessed pure observer consciousness, their brains instantly synchronized into perfect quantum coherence across all regions. 40 Hz gamma waves, the frequency of peak performance and insight, appeared immediately. Not after weeks of practice, not after months of meditation, instantly. If you think this sounds impossible, comment, "Show me proof," because I'm about to show you exactly how this works in your own brain. But here's what shocked the researchers. The brainwave patterns were identical to advanced quantum meditators who'd practiced for 20+ years. One session of quantum observer training produced the same neural coherence as decades of traditional meditation. Welcome to the neuroquantum advantage. We don't do things the slow way. This shouldn't be possible according to everything we've been taught about neuroplasticity. But it proves that your brain is operating as a quantum system that responds instantly to observer consciousness. Comment, I am quantum. if you're ready to activate your brain's quantum operating system. And once you understand how to harness this quantum field effect, you can rewrite any neural pattern in real time. Let me tell you about my own breakthrough. I used to wake up every morning with this frequency playing in my head. You're behind, you're not good enough, everyone else has it figured out. This pattern had been running my reality for 15 years. I'd tried everything to change it. Then I learned the quantum observer protocol I'm about to teach you. Instead of fighting these thoughts, I stepped into pure observer consciousness and watched them with scientific curiosity. Interesting. There's that scarcity frequency activating again. I can observe my quantum field responding to limitation vibration. Fascinating how this energy pattern tries to collapse my reality into struggle. The moment I began observing these patterns from quantum consciousness instead of being controlled by them, something extraordinary happened. My brain's frequency shifted from chaos to coherence automatically. New neural pathways formed that could process the same triggers completely differently. Within 1 week, I woke up feeling excited about my day instead of anxious. Not because I forced positive thoughts, but because my brain had literally rewired itself through quantum observation. This is the power of understanding that your consciousness isn't trapped inside your brain. Your brain is operating inside a field of quantum consciousness that you can direct. But let me show you an even more dramatic example. Jessica, a software engineer from Seattle, was completely burned out. Marcus, I can't stop thinking about work. Even on weekends, my brain is stuck in problem-solving frequency. I'm exhausted. If you're nodding your head right now, comment, I feel burned out. Burnout is epidemic in our society, but the neuro-quantum community has the solution. Her brain scans showed something fascinating. Her neural networks were locked in beta waves, the frequency of stress and mental chatter. Using quantum observer protocols, Jessica learned to shift her consciousness into what we call field awareness, observing her thoughts from expanded quantum perspective. 2 weeks later, this is insane, Marcus. I can literally watch my brain trying to activate work frequency when I'm with my family. But now, instead of getting pulled into mental noise, I step into observer consciousness and choose which frequency to operate from. It's like having a remote control for my own quantum field. Comment, I want control if you want that level of conscious control over your own mental frequency. This is what becomes possible when you understand that your thoughts don't control you. You control the frequency that generates thoughts. And that frequency is determined by the state of your observer consciousness. When you operate from quantum observer awareness, you gain access to what neuroscientists call cognitive flexibility, your brain's ability to form new neural connections without interference from old patterns. But here's the key insight that changes everything. Your brain doesn't just respond to quantum observation, it's designed for it. Every neuron in your head is essentially a quantum processor, capable of existing in multiple states until consciousness collapses it into specific reality. This means you're not learning some new age technique, you're activating your brain's natural quantum operating system. And once this system comes online, neural transformation happens at the speed of consciousness. Now let me explain exactly what happens in your brain when you activate the quantum observer effect. Imagine your neural networks as a vast quantum field with infinite possible configurations. Most of the time, your thoughts travel the same frequency patterns over and over. The anxiety highway operating at 15 Hz, the self-doubt freeway vibrating at 12 Hz, the I'm not good enough express lane stuck in 8 Hz theta waves. These patterns get stronger through repetition, creating what neuroscientists call neural highways, established quantum coherence patterns that your consciousness follows automatically. But here's what's revolutionary. The moment you step into pure observer consciousness, something impossible happens according to classical physics. Your awareness collapses the quantum superposition of your neural field into entirely new configurations. Not gradually, not over time, instantly. Let me tell you about Jennifer's breakthrough that proves this. Jennifer, a nurse from Phoenix, had been trapped in people-pleasing patterns for 25 years. Marcus, I know I should say no sometimes, but the moment someone asks for help, my brain's frequency shifts into automatic yes mode, even when I'm exhausted. Brain scans revealed that Jennifer's neural networks were locked in what we call approval-seeking coherence. a specific quantum field pattern that collapsed her reality into constant service to others. Instead of trying to change her behavior, I taught her to observe this pattern from quantum consciousness. The next week, her supervisor asked her to cover an extra shift on her day off. But this time, instead of automatic agreement, Jennifer accessed observer frequency. I can watch the guilt pattern trying to activate in my quantum field. There's that, "what if they don't like me" vibration starting to emerge. Interesting how my consciousness wants to collapse into people-pleasing reality. Because she was observing from quantum awareness instead of being controlled by neural automation, something new became possible. Wait, I have choice here. These are just energy patterns moving through my field. I can collapse this quantum moment into any reality I choose. For the first time in 25 years, Jennifer said, "Let me check my schedule and get back to you." Her brain had literally formed new neural pathways through quantum observer consciousness. This is what I call neurological frequency selection, the ability to choose which quantum patterns your brain collapses into reality. Here's another example that will blow your mind. David, an accountant from Atlanta, couldn't stop checking his phone compulsively. "I feel this frequency pulling me toward my device constantly. Even during important work, my quantum field seems magnetized to digital distraction." Brain imaging showed David's neural networks were stuck in what researchers call dopamine-seeking coherence, a quantum pattern that collapsed his attention into constant stimulus hunting. I taught him to recognize the frequency signature just before reaching for his phone. There's always an energy shift first: boredom, restlessness, anxiety. Your quantum field responds to these vibrations by seeking external stimulation. 2 days later, "Marcus, this is incredible. I can feel the phone-checking frequency building in my quantum field, but now instead of automatically following that energy pattern, I step into observer consciousness and watch it. Sometimes the urge dissolves. Sometimes I still check my phone, but now it's a conscious choice instead of quantum automation. This is the difference between being controlled by your neural frequency versus directing it through quantum observer awareness. And the more you practice this consciousness skill, the more your brain's default frequency shifts toward coherence instead of chaos. But here's what makes this truly revolutionary. You're not just changing thought patterns. You're transforming the quantum field that generates thoughts. When your observer consciousness operates from coherence instead of confusion, your entire neural network begins vibrating at higher frequencies. Problems that seemed impossible suddenly have obvious solutions. Relationships improve because you're responding from quantum wisdom instead of emotional reactivity. Creativity explodes because your brain can access field intelligence beyond individual thinking. This is what happens when you remember that your consciousness isn't trapped inside your skull. Your brain is an antenna tuning into the infinite quantum field of possibility. And you have the power to choose which frequency you tune into. Let me tell you about the case that made me realize how powerful quantum observer consciousness really is. Tom, a construction worker from Ohio, came to me because his wife threatened to leave him if he didn't get help with his anger. "Marcus, when my teenage son disrespects me, something in my quantum field just explodes. I go from calm to rage instantly. I hate this frequency, but I can't seem to change it." If you've ever felt controlled by emotions you don't want, comment, "I've been there." The neuroquantum community doesn't judge, we solve. Brain scans revealed that Tom's neural networks had formed what we call reactive coherence patterns, quantum field configurations that automatically collapsed triggers into aggressive reality. Instead of anger management techniques, I taught Tom something radical: how to step into observer consciousness the moment he felt his frequency shifting toward rage. Here's what every neuroquantum member learns: you can't control emotions, but you can master your relationship to them. 3 weeks later, Tom called me with a story that shouldn't be possible. "Marcus, yesterday my son left his room a complete disaster after I specifically told him to clean it. I felt that familiar rage frequency starting to build in my quantum field. But instead of getting swept away, I stepped into observer mode and watched it like a scientist studying an experiment. I could literally see the anger energy rising through my neural networks. Feel my jaw clenching. Notice my thoughts becoming hostile. But I wasn't drowning in it. I was observing it from quantum consciousness. And something incredible happened. The rage peaked like a wave and then naturally receded. My brain's frequency shifted from chaos to coherence automatically. I went and talked to my son calmly. We actually had the best conversation we've had in years. Comment, I choose peace, if you want to learn how to surf emotional waves instead of being drowned by them. This is what neuroscientists call emotional regulation through quantum observation. When you watch emotions from observer consciousness, instead of being consumed by them, your brain automatically develops more efficient ways to process energy. Not through suppression, but through quantum field reorganization. But let me tell you about an even more dramatic case. Lisa, a marketing executive from Denver, had been struggling with panic attacks for 8 years. Marcus, they come from nowhere. One minute I'm fine, the next my quantum field is in complete chaos. Heart pounding, can't breathe, convinced I'm dying. Brain imaging revealed that Lisa's neural networks would shift into what we call survival frequency, a quantum coherence pattern that collapsed minor stress into life-threatening reality. I taught Lisa the quantum observer protocol as a complementary tool to her medical treatment. The next time she felt panic starting in a grocery store, instead of fighting it, she did something revolutionary. She observed it from quantum consciousness. I can feel my nervous system activating survival frequency. There's that familiar chest tightness. My breathing is shifting into shallow mode. This is panic energy trying to collapse my quantum field into crisis reality. Because she was watching from observer awareness instead of being consumed by the experience, something remarkable happened. She could see that panic was just quantum field fluctuations, energy patterns moving through her neural networks without permanent meaning. These are just vibrations passing through my consciousness. My quantum field is reorganizing itself. I don't have to resist or be afraid of temporary energy shifts. The panic peaked for about 90 seconds and then naturally resolved. 6 months later, I still feel anxiety sometimes, but I haven't had a full panic attack since learning quantum observer consciousness. It's like having supervision over my own neural frequency. This is what becomes possible when you understand that you are not your emotions. You are the quantum consciousness experiencing them. And from that observer position, you have choices you never knew existed. But here's the case that really demonstrates the power of quantum field mastery. Robert, a day trader from New York, was trapped in self-sabotage patterns. Marcus, I'll be having a great trading day, everything flowing perfectly, and then I'll make one impulsive trade that destroys all my gains. It's like my quantum field shifts into destruction mode automatically. Through observer training, Robert discovered something fascinating. Right before self-sabotaging trades, his consciousness would detect a specific frequency pattern. This success feels too good to be true. I don't deserve this abundance. Something bad is coming. Once he could observe these quantum field shifts without being controlled by them, he gained the power to choose different responses. Now when I notice scarcity frequency trying to activate, I step into observer consciousness and watch it like weather passing through the sky. The pattern appears, I acknowledge it, and then I choose which energy to collapse into reality. His trading improved dramatically, but more importantly, he felt free from neural patterns that had controlled him for years. This is the real power of quantum observer consciousness. It doesn't make problems disappear. It gives you the frequency mastery to relate to them from expanded awareness. And when you change the vibrational coherence of your relationship to challenges, everything in your reality can shift. Because remember, your external world is always a reflection of your internal quantum field state. Change the frequency of your consciousness, and your entire reality reorganizes to match. All right, now I'm going to teach you the exact quantum observer protocol that's transformed thousands of lives. But first, understand this clearly. You're not learning to suppress thoughts or force positive emotions. You're learning to access your natural quantum consciousness and direct your brain's frequency intentionally. Here's the simple 3-step process that activates instant neural rewiring. Step 1. Quantum pause. First 30 seconds. Next time you notice yourself getting caught in mental chaos, negative energy, or automatic reactions, immediately shift into what I call field awareness. Take one conscious breath and silently say, "My quantum field is shifting right now. Let me observe what's happening." Try this tonight and comment, "I'm testing this tomorrow," to let the neuro-quantum community know how it went. This simple phrase activates your brain's metacognitive circuits, your ability to observe consciousness itself. It's like stepping from inside the movie of your thoughts into the audience watching the movie. Instantly, your neural networks begin shifting from chaos toward coherence. Step 2. Frequency scanning. Next 2 to 3 minutes. Now become a scientist studying your own quantum field. What frequency is my brain operating on right now? What energy patterns are moving through my neural networks? What vibration is my consciousness trying to collapse into reality? How is my quantum field responding to this trigger? This is what separates neuro-quantum members from the 99%. We study our consciousness instead of being victims of it. You're not trying to change anything. You're gathering data about your own neural frequency with pure curiosity. This step is where the magic happens. This is where your brain starts forming new quantum coherence patterns. Most people skip this because they want relief immediately. But this observation phase is where neural transformation occurs. Step 3. Conscious frequency selection. Final minute. After scanning your quantum field for a few minutes, you'll often notice that something shifts naturally. Your brain's frequency may stabilize into coherence. New perspectives might emerge from field intelligence. You might feel more space around the situation. From this expanded quantum awareness, ask yourself, what frequency would serve my highest good right now? Not what you should do, not what others expect. What vibrational reality would you choose to collapse this moment into? Then trust whatever emerges from quantum field wisdom and take action from that coherence. Use this protocol for the next 7 days and comment, "I am changing," to share your results with the neuro-quantum community. Let's create a movement of conscious reality creators. Let me give you a real example from my own life. Yesterday, I was deep in creative flow when my neighbor started construction noise. My first impulse was familiar. This is ruining my concentration. Why does this always happen when I'm productive? Old me would have gotten frustrated, lost my flow state, spent the rest of the day in mental chaos. Instead, I used the quantum protocol. Quantum pause. My field is shifting into resistance frequency. Let me observe what's happening. Frequency. Scanning. I can feel irritation energy building in my neural networks. There's that victim of circumstances vibration trying to activate. My quantum field wants to collapse this into disruption reality. Conscious selection. After observing for about 90 seconds, new possibilities emerged from field awareness. This is actually perfect timing for a creative break. My brain has been in intense focus for 2 hours. Maybe some fresh energy would enhance my work. What could have destroyed my day became a refreshing reset that actually improved my creative output. That's the power of quantum frequency mastery. You're not pretending problems don't exist. You're choosing how your consciousness relates to them. Here's another quick example. My friend Maria used this protocol when her teenager came home past curfew. Instead of immediately activating lecture frequency, her usual pattern, she observed, "I can feel protective concern and authority challenge energies activating in my quantum field. My consciousness wants to collapse this into conflict reality." From observer awareness, she realized, "My daughter needs to understand my worry comes from love, not control. Let me respond from connection frequency instead of punishment vibration." The conversation that followed was completely different than their usual power struggles. Her daughter actually opened up instead of getting defensive. One shift in quantum consciousness changed the entire energy dynamic. Now I want to be transparent. This isn't always easy, especially when neural patterns have been running automatically for years. Sometimes you'll only remember to use the protocol after you've already reacted from old frequency. That's completely normal and part of developing quantum consciousness mastery. The key is celebrating every moment of awareness instead of judging imperfection. Each time you catch yourself operating from unconscious frequency, you're literally strengthening your observer neural networks. Your brain learns exponentially. Within weeks of consistent practice, quantum awareness becomes more automatic. You start catching frequency shifts earlier in the process. Eventually, you develop real-time consciousness, the ability to observe and direct your quantum field as experiences unfold. And when that happens, you become what I call a reality architect, someone who consciously designs their experience instead of being controlled by random neural frequency. Here's what your life looks like 30 days from now when you master quantum observer consciousness. You wake up in the morning and instead of mental noise immediately hijacking your frequency, you notice, oh, there's my brain trying to activate planning and worry energy. Interesting. From quantum awareness, you can choose, do I want to engage with control frequency or would it serve me better to start my day from peaceful coherence? You're stuck in traffic running late, and instead of stress hijacking your quantum field, you observe traffic frustration. Vibration is trying to activate. My consciousness wants to collapse this into crisis reality. But because you're watching from observer awareness instead of being consumed by the story, you might actually smile. Perfect opportunity to practice field mastery. Let me tune into gratitude frequency and see what insights emerge. Your boss sends critical feedback and instead of confidence crashing, you pause and scan. Criticism always triggers that inadequacy, frequency, in my quantum field. Let me observe how this energy moves through my neural networks without automatically believing the story. This isn't about becoming emotionally numb or spiritually bypassing difficult feelings. It's about remembering that you are the quantum consciousness, experiencing emotions, not the emotions themselves. You still feel everything fully: sadness, anger, frustration, worry. You're beautifully human. But these energies become temporary visitors in your field instead of permanent controllers of your reality. And here's what I've discovered after working with thousands of people. When you develop quantum observer mastery, life transforms from struggle into adventure. Not because problems disappear, but because you remember you're the consciousness directing the experience, not a victim of random circumstances. Challenges become opportunities to practice frequency selection instead of evidence that something's wrong. Relationships deepen because you're responding from quantum wisdom instead of reacting from wounded energy. Work becomes more creative because your mind isn't trapped in repetitive worry frequencies. Even difficult emotions become fascinating instead of overwhelming. But here's the most beautiful part. This transformation creates ripple effects throughout the quantum field. When you operate from coherent consciousness instead of chaotic frequency, everyone around you feels it. Your children feel safer because you're present in peaceful vibration instead of lost in stress energy. Your partner feels more connected because you're actually listening from field awareness instead of waiting to speak from ego frequency. Your colleagues enjoy your energy because you bring solutions from quantum intelligence instead of adding to mental drama. You become what I call a consciousness catalyst, someone who naturally elevates the frequency of every field they enter. And those effects can transform families, communities, even future generations. So here's my question for you. Are you ready to step into conscious mastery of your own quantum field? Are you ready to stop being controlled by neural frequencies that were probably programmed in childhood? Are you ready to discover what becomes possible when you remember you are quantum consciousness having a human experience, not just a human struggling with thoughts? If something in this video activated recognition in your field, if you saw yourself in these stories, if you're ready to develop mastery over your own neural frequency, comment Quantum Observer below, not just for engagement, but as a declaration to your consciousness and the field that you choose awareness over automation. This comment becomes your initiation into the neuroquantum community, a family of conscious reality creators who refuse to accept unconscious living. And if you want deeper access to neuroscience that actually transforms daily experience instead of just sounding impressive, if you want community with others who understand consciousness as a skill you can develop, if you want protocols that can shift your reality in real time, hit that subscribe button and join the neuroquantum movement. Because when you subscribe, you're not just following a YouTube channel, you're becoming part of a global awakening of quantum consciousness. Here's what being part of the neuroquantum family gives you. Weekly protocols that upgrade your neural frequency community of advanced consciousness practitioners, direct access to cutting-edge neuroscience before it goes mainstream, support from thousands of quantum observers worldwide, exclusive techniques that create instant reality shifts. Most importantly, you become part of something bigger than yourself, a movement that's proving consciousness can be consciously evolved. Turn on notifications so you never miss a neuroquantum activation. Your future self will thank you. Because here's what I've learned after years of studying quantum consciousness. Your awareness is not an accident. It's your most powerful tool for reality creation. And when you learn to wield it consciously, everything changes. Not because you become perfect, but because you become free. Free to choose your frequency instead of being controlled by random neural patterns. Free to feel everything without being enslaved by temporary energy fluctuations. Free to be fully human while remembering your quantum consciousness, temporarily focused through a human nervous system. The observer effect isn't just a physics principle, it's your birthright as a conscious being. And now you know how to activate it. Welcome to NeuroQuantum, where quantum science meets practical wisdom. Where you remember that you've always been more powerful than your patterns, and where conscious reality creation becomes your new normal. Your consciousness is listening to every choice you make right now. Every moment you delay is a moment you reinforce old frequency patterns. Every moment you apply this knowledge is a moment you strengthen quantum observer networks. The field responds instantly to whatever you choose to focus on consciously. Your neural destiny is literally in your hands. Choose wisely. Choose consciously. Choose NeuroQuantum. Marcus Steinberg signing off. See you in the quantum field.